Hello and welcome to the TCS podcast, where we're dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success by supplying you with the tools, resources, and support necessary to not only build profitable businesses, but create lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I'm Eric Guy, Director of Learning and Development for TCS. Joining me today is a interesting gentleman. I think he's going to have an interesting story here. We've been talking, so it's Eric Helitzer from SubBase. He's actually the founder of SubBase, but I'm checking out what he was doing prior to that, and so I think he's going to be able to relate a lot with our community here, folks. But welcome, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. Glad to be here.
Shouldn't forget your name, right?
No, definitely not.
I always like to tell our community the background, right?
Yeah.
Because especially when we're talking about tech, it's like, okay,
For sure.
talk about tech. What does this guy know about construction, contractors, things like that? So let's start there because you know a thing or two, I think.
Yeah. So my career didn't start in technology. My career started because I came from a third generation family of builders. I decided that I was going to be the one that went and actually studied construction in school. So I went to the University of Florida, was accepted in 2006, and then applied while I was at school at the University of Florida to the Construction Management School, which at the time was known as the Rinker School of Construction, where I spent 4 years getting a bachelor's and a master's degree in all things construction management. So during the school year, it would be strictly school, learning construction management, all the different classes, and then in the summers we were forced out of the school to get internships. So I was interning in the summers, learning in the field. I actually had a phenomenal internship for many summers with some great companies. One of them in South Florida, which is where I started my career. So I was hired along right out of school in the subcontractor world. I worked for a very large concrete contractor who was at the time just opening their business in Miami, in South Florida, because they were coming into the market at the time of the condo boom that was happening from really 2004 to, let's call it 2009, 2010, where there was a crazy boom of condominiums and they were solidifying their presence here. They're still down here. I worked in that field on the concrete side, in the pre-construction side and operations for 8 years, which included 2 years of summer internships. And then in 2014, I was called by the family business because they needed someone who was going to come run a piece of their operation that was a little bit more tech focused, because they were a team of 8 people, had some big work on the GC side coming through, and they wanted to use technology to streamline very archaic processes of, manually sending out RFIs and submittals, maintaining drawing logs that were traditionally done in a very manual, archaic way. And so they thought that I would be an appropriate person to figure out how to get this to work. And that was really my first introduction to technology in the space, was seeing how archaic their workflows were, stapling all the different submittals behind, literally folding over, drawings and stapling RFIs to the back to make sure the field had the right set of the right RFI. That's what I was doing. We then introduced technology to simplify that. 8 years after that is when I was introduced to a different set of technology, which I saw evolving in the field, which was post-COVID. A lot of subcontractors couldn't rely on a lot of the workflows that they were doing to get pricing, because pricing was changing rapidly. Lead times for common items that they were used to getting the next day were changing, and they needed a better tool to enhance their visibility. And that's where really SubBase was started. I was running a job in Doral, Florida, and started to see subcontractors in the field, like foremen, who were either calling their office, email, text, writing on cardboard, pieces of cardboard, their lists of materials that were then emailed into someone, who then had to call back and forth to tell them, no, this guy doesn't have it, but maybe I can get it from here. And this was happening every day. Mm-hmm. And so I was partnered with someone that came from the Silicon Valley world that knew that construction had some real big issues on that, but really didn't understand the nuances of how to speak the language, how to really get technology in the hands of the right people. And so that's where my career pivoted. I left the family business and started building what is now called SubBase. It was not called that before, but really focused on subcontractors who we knew very well. And we knew the workflows well and tying them into their vendors, but also tying in the back office, accounting, and really giving visibility to a very manual workflow today, which is material procurement. So that's kind of my shift from like studying it. And a lot of people made fun of me for going to college and studying construction because they didn't really think that there was a path towards construction management. Yeah. And so I saw, the development from the field, right? The lens of the subcontractor, GC side. And now obviously we're on the technology side, but every day we're working with subcontractors and self-performing GCs who want a lot more clarity and visibility into that entire workflow.
Yeah. So what do you see as the biggest kind of operational pain points for contractors today? Even just in general.
So in general, the biggest, so there's a couple. The biggest one that I see at the subcontractor, the field level of subcontractors is the amount of touch points and manual entry it's taking them to get simple tasks done that they just don't enjoy doing. For example, a foreman in the field, like he needs materials, he needs it now. He doesn't want to, start manually writing things out. A lot of what he's saying that he needs, right? If he needs a certain box of snap ties and snap ties for a concrete shell contractor can come in many different areas. He knows what he wants. That has to be translated to someone on the other end that also calls that same box of snap ties something a little different. So some of the pain points that we're solving for is just the ease of getting that data to a centralized pot and also opening up and providing visibility that didn't exist before because now everyone can collaborate in one spot. On the general contractor side, a lot of what we see operationally speaking is they also want to be able to not just eliminate the manual entry, but they want more visibility into different aspects of where subcontractors are at currently on schedules, how are lead times affecting certain aspects. So it's really a chain of command that starts from the field that worked its way up, and providing visibility is one of the biggest pain points that we've seen that we can solve for at the at the level of contractors today they're looking for.
What was you obviously like what you're doing, it looks like, right?
Yeah, I love it.
You enjoy it.
Yeah.
What do you look forward to, I guess, most every day?
Yeah. So because the product that we've built is being used by a lot of contractors around the nation, what I love every day is I love talking to the users, and we talk to them on a daily basis and hearing what we're doing well to solve problems that we didn't even think we were solving for. What are they looking for that we could solve for? And, how can we get them to the next level of this, euphoria of like having everything in one spot when it comes to not just materials management, but, tracking against my inventory in my warehouse, being able to make better decisions with the data I have. Speaking and seeing them use the product and hearing where they want to go is probably the most exciting and rewarding thing. It's really cool to like build something, but what's even cooler is to see it be used in real life and to like see the hard costs and soft cost savings. That's really exciting. We touch, the profit and loss statement of a company. If they can buy efficiently, if they can save dollars, and even for the vendor can be able not just to sell more efficiently, but be able to really make that connection with their buyer, which would be the end user. We touch a lot of like that hard cost dollar. And so that's really cool and exciting to see. And we can show that obviously with a system like SubBase, we can show how we touch your profit loss versus, other areas where it's hard to define ROI, right? Because
sure,
sometimes when people look at software, they look at just the soft cost as being the ROI. So if you can tie it to the hard cost numbers, that's exciting to see and show users where they're actually saving real dollars.
Now, the one question that, I guess the concern question, whatever you want to call it, from our contractor base here that we get a lot is like, okay, is it easy to use? Like, is this some dude that has no idea how hard we got it out here? How do you build something, or have you built something for like it's blue collar sensitive?
Exactly. So when I was in the field, I saw exactly how a superintendent who was just adopting an iPhone. When I was in the field, we were just starting to adopt iPhones. So I saw the transformation of like, how that iPhone is going to work in the field or iPad with users that are not very tech savvy. And yes, like it's a big, big problem for especially field users, right? There's two things. One, you have to make sure that what you're building, obviously it's going to solve a problem for them, make it easier, but it's got to be similar to what they're already doing. What we've noticed was if you start to flip things upside down for them, no matter how nice the interface looks, it just doesn't make sense and that won't resonate. There's going to be a lot of pushback and friction. So we knew the processes pretty well. We knew exactly how materials need to be ordered. We knew that like most people are just picking up a phone today to call. They don't want to talk, or they don't want to, text in or email, because a lot of times they don't have the ability to. They're on decks, and it's very dangerous on a working deck to be looking down at your phone sometimes. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that the interface that we were building not only made sense to, being able to easy to use, but made sense as far as what they're doing today, that didn't change the way that they're ordering or requesting materials. So for example, a lot of what we have being built is a lot of conversational pieces, talking into your phone and being able to make sure that that information can be translated, to what you actually want to order without having to do all the steps of typing.
I didn't know that part. So you could speak right into the phone in it.
Yeah. So what we're building right now is we have a very easy request form that we can bring a user in who is typically, typing in what he needs on a request form. It's very manual, and we can streamline that process. And we can cut 90% of the process out because he's going to have his database sitting there. He can talk to text to find it, and then he can select the button, move it in. The next phase that we're working on, that's in an environment where we're testing with real users, is, hey, why don't you go speak into your phone just like you would make a phone call, except let's transcribe that to someone that needs that documentation, because at some point, even if you're calling your vendor for material, your vendor still has to get that into a system.
Right.
It's not like everything is just moving with voice. So we want to keep voice because we know that the field likes voice, but be able to translate to what the needs are. And we can do that now with technology. So that's kind of like the field piece of like, how do we get that adoption, but make it easy? And then when you talk about the office, right? The office wants less manual typing into accounting systems. They want the ability to aggregate their data to see where they could be potentially buying better. How are they tracking on their budgets in real time? All of that gives them that ease of use, but also, reduces a lot of the steps to get them what they need, which is ultimately, am I making money or not? And how do I see that? Materials obviously have it's essentially 40% of your budget, if not more, is that material piece and that equipment piece that we manage in one spot.
I guess, what's it look like? And again, this is general, like from a saving standpoint, to have everything like that, like, speak ROI. Like if somebody does something like that, I can't imagine what that might be, but do you track that at all?
We do track it. So we track it in two ways, because the way that you have to track ROI, especially when you're talking to subcontractors in construction, is you've got your hard costs, right? These are the dollars that we know that as you start opening up your data, starting to see and aggregate it in one spot and look at it, you can start buying better. You can potentially buy in bulk to help you save dollars. Across the board, we're starting to see that when you start to centralize your purchasing, centralize your data, start actually going out to the market to get pricing in real time, which we can do in the system, you can save 8 to 10% on raw hard material cost all day, every day. That is proven data, proven ROI as a hard cost savings. Now, some companies are doing that today. They do a lot of it. But what we notice is they cannot send a lot of RFQs every day because it's very manual. If they want to send to multiple vendors, it's multiple emails, right? And at the same time, like, they just don't have the time to do that. We help them do that, but we also help them make sure that the relationships they have with their vendors could be utilized so that they can make, bigger buying, bulk buying deals. If they know they're going to be buying $1 million worth of CDX plywood over the next month, like, they should be able to proactively go out and buy from someone and and get a savings on that, because they've aggregated how much they may need and they know who they can buy from better. That's like more hard cost savings, right? Inventory management is another hard cost savings. If I have stock inventory and I'm a roofer, I'm a plumber, and I want to pull from stock, it is almost impossible for my field to know what I have in stock in real time without them making 20 phone calls. Someone in the warehouse has to go and look on an Excel or paper-based spreadsheet. And if he didn't update today, right, or he doesn't see that this is committed to on their job, you're not getting real information to tell the field, oh, I have this. So what happens is the field is overbuying that. The field buys it from another vendor, right? It gets delivered, and then all of a sudden they may have bought too much, and now it goes back to the warehouse. And now instead of depleting your inventory, you're just adding more inventory to it. It's sitting there, it's not being used. So that's another true hard cost savings we can show, which is like really managing people that have inventory and being able to draw it down respectfully in real time. And then you've got soft costs. Like soft costs is all over the place, from how long is it taking you today to process an order? A single order could touch the hands of 4 to 5 people at a subcontractor or general contractor's office. It touches the field. It touches a potential PM who's running multiple jobs. It touches accounting. It touches potentially an operations manager, depending on the size. And ultimately, it touches a potential controller, right, who's manually entering every piece of material data into their accounting system. We have already proven the hours of savings. Some companies are saving upwards of 40 hours a week of manual data entry into their accounting systems, because we can not only get the information off a PDF very fast, but within our system, we can start to pair the invoice to the order, what was ordered, show you the delivery ticket because it's all coming into one, and then quickly flip that into a workflow where you don't need to bring your field office PMs to your office to physically look at delivery tickets that were delivered a week late. Like, that does not need to happen anymore. So how do you put a value on that? I mean, we do. A lot of people think it's, oh, you're just putting numbers, but no, like, we can walk you through like the time it takes you, the average billable blended rate of what you're paying someone in the field, in the office, and how much work they're doing. And so that's like one of the soft cost ROIs. And then the final piece is every company we talk to is growing. Like, there's not a company we're talking to that's like, oh yeah, no, we're going to go from 10 million next year to 5 million. They're going from 10 to 20 or 200 to 500. And in order for them to grow, right, they are looking at tools that are going to allow them to not have to increase headcount. One, because they don't want to increase G&A, and two, and they don't want to increase G&A, they want to increase margins, but two, go have fun trying to find people to staff in these offices. It's very difficult, and no one wants to come into construction who's outside of construction. Why? Because it's archaic. Like, it's not an attractive thing to do if you're in like healthcare or fintech or any of these other industries. Like, it's not an attractive place unless you've got great people, obviously, in technology that can show that. So that's where like the soft cost comes in, of like, you want to attract great talent that wants to use great software. You can use this as a selling prop on like a soft cost. So that's kind of how we envision like ROI. We can go a lot deeper, but that's kind of like baseline of how we speak about it.
Well, you talked about people. I'm obviously the people guy here at TCS with everything going on. What's some leadership skills that you're currently working on or seeing a need for contractors?
So one thing that we're seeing a need for is everybody wants to everyone wants technology now. Like, owners you talk to, they're older school, but they want it. Like, yes, I know I want it, but they don't have the actual bandwidth or the people to implement it. So what we're seeing is like companies are starting to hire this hybrid role of like an operations person that understands operations, but also can implement technology in-house. So that is actually a role that we're starting to see. We're also starting to see a role of leadership going deeper into the data. Construction is all data. It doesn't matter like what you're building. I mean, every construction project is essentially a custom piece of, everything's custom in construction. There's not a similar job, like there are similar jobs, but everything is legitimately custom. And there's so much data flying around that they are starting to keep a hold of this, and they want that to be centralized in a place where they can make those better decisions. And so there's like roles opening up at, sometimes larger companies, but we're seeing it all over where data is coming into the industry. And like, what are you going to do with the data, right? That's one thing, but how are you going to get the data? How do you actually get the data out of the field that's going to make sense so that you can do what you need to do to give better insights into what these companies want that information for? So those are some like really intense leadership roles that we're seeing come into the market. And it's exciting because 10 years ago, like no one was hiring for these roles. No one like even talked about it. And now it's a thing that's being talked about. And if you think about it, when you like spend 8 to 10 hours a day in an office, and this is just what we're seeing, order materials, like if you don't have a system that's modernized, you're pounding away at the keyboard, you're sending out like all these manual emails, you're tracking things in spreadsheets. You go home, right? And you're sitting on your computer and 2 clicks of a button, you're ordering things, you're seeing things in real time happen. It's like, oh, wait, I can do this at home, but 8 to 10 hours of my day at a company where I'm living at pretty much for 40, 50 hours a week, I have to do all this work. What's going on here? So like, that's like the shift that's happening, you know?
Yeah. We do see that all the time. What do you think are like the biggest growth opportunities currently in the trades over the next 5 years?
So growth opportunities, I see, well, as far as like personnel, right? I think that if someone really wants to get into the trades, as far as like working in a mechanical company or like being a plumber, like someone that actually is a tradesman or like a journeyman or anyone that's working in the field, there's unlimited opportunity, not only like to get a job very fast, but the pay. What we're seeing as far as like these jobs opening up and what people are willing to pay to get high talent quality work in the field is it's amazing. I mean, you can legitimately graduate with a degree from a college and have a lot of debt, pay it back, and you will not be as far as if you went into a trade and got hired immediately and can build a phenomenal career.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work, right? Either way, but like there's a need and we're seeing it all day.
Huge need.
There is not enough people that are just sitting out there wanting to work in the trade. So like that's a big opportunity and we're seeing it across the board, literally across the board.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing is, like I said, on the technology piece, there are companies that are looking for that hybrid role, right? Someone that can go work in the field as a real superintendent, but also have the mentality to be able to pick up an iPad and be a little bit more tech savvy. Yes. So this hybrid of like being an APM, so you can kind of manage the paperwork side via technology, because it's easier to do. You can bring it in the field, and being a superintendent, it's the most valuable position I think in construction right now is that hybrid role. I've seen it a couple of times. I have a couple of people I know that have done it. It is the most valuable piece. If you can go in the field, become a superintendent, but also be able to talk the talk as far as like the project management piece and be that hybrid, those are unicorns.
Yeah.
They literally don't exist. And when they do exist, they get snatched up immediately.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're winding down here. You ready for the fire round here, sir?
Yeah, let's do
it. All right. So what's one tool every subcontractor should be using, but most aren't?
Right now, besides, I'm not going to plug SubBase. Yeah. Right now, I would say the private version of ChatGPT. Have it up on your browser, and you can start asking questions on a day-to-day basis. It's phenomenal, and it should be used at that field level right now for any question you need as far as moving fast in your workflow.
Okay. Biggest myth about the construction industry you'd love to bust?
That's a great one. So I think the biggest industry is that it's a hard learning curve. I think if you really put the time in, and when I say put the time in and you work in the field and you see how the field operates, you can learn construction a lot faster than most people think.
Yeah. Okay. What's more important, speed or accuracy?
Accuracy. The reason I say that is because you can go as fast as you want, but if you make mistakes along the way, you may have to redo that work. To me, it's accuracy because what we used to say is, you speed up, right? You slow down to speed up. Right. You get it right the first time, and then you double down and go faster.
Good. What's one business book that changed how you operate?
Not really a business book, but it's called the Mom Test. For us, it really allows you to really speak as if try to understand people's problems versus trying to push a solution onto them. It's a good book, really short read. It really lets you think and really interact with people in a way where you can grab their problems before you just throw on a solution to them.
Wonderful. Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings. Construction. I mean, I was up at, it's just what I was used to even in school. It was always early morning.
Favorite quote, last one here. Favorite quote or motto you live by?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
All right.
Cresky,
huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. How do folks get in touch with you? Yeah. So
we're very active on LinkedIn.
I just
LinkedIn.
reached out to you, so
Cool.
I'm gonna put that
Yep.
in there for folks too, and make sure we
Yep.
get that shared with you and your folks as well once we put this out.
Yep. We're very active on LinkedIn, and then SubBase.io. So SUBBASE.io. You can come in, you can message us, you can find us on LinkedIn. My email is just eric@subbase.io. We love talking to anyone that's interested, even if you don't have a big problem yet and you're curious to see how other contractors are solving some of the complexities here. We'd love to just have a conversation.
Yeah, maybe we can arrange that with our inner circle group here.
Yeah,
in
we'd
the
love
near
it.
Future, Eric.
We do a lot of
Love to have you on.
a lot of lunch and learns. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks,
That's a
Eric.
wrap for today, guys. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time on the TCS podcast.